Intensity, extreme force, degree, or strength. This can look so different in so many ways. High positive Gs, high negative Gs, whip, pacing, roughness. In today's video, we'll be diving straight into the thrill capital of the world and going through this very deep lineup, ranking each coaster by intensity. Now there are 3 kiddie coasters at this park, and we are just going to skip through them. Kiddie coasters aren't meant for kids, so they obviously aren't intense. We will however talk about some family coasters to start off. In the bottom spot is Gold Rusher. This is an Arrow mine train. The most intense part of the ride is like the rattle that's there, or seeing all the hats in the valley and cringing at all the stupid GP who don't know how to ride a roller coaster. But really, it's pretty much forceless. I recall there being some pauses on the final helix. This coaster doesn't pass 35 miles per hour, so don't be too surprised. Next up is Revolution. It's by Schwarzkopf and has a vertical loop, so you know there's at least one good element there. This is the first modern inversion, and it tracks pretty well to this day, delivering positives throughout the entire vertical loop. The rest of the ride is a mellow terrain coaster, so yeah, the one element pushes it above Gold Rusher. Now the next one may come as a huge surprise to you. The tallest coaster in the park, well, not really, it's whatever you want to call it, but the not full circuit 415-foot tower that's themed to Superman falls in the bottom 3 for intensity. You may ask me why, but it's pretty much self-explanatory. The bulky restraints suck and ruin the ride experience so much. The indoor queue does not build up the hype, and the launch takes way too long to get up to full speed. The combination of these factors make it not an intense experience. Plus, if you are launching backwards, it hinders the anticipation even more, and lowers the intensity quite a bit. So what does make Superman intense? The wind. The wind is the only thing that really gives you a perception of on how fast you're going. It's like being in those wind machines at your local trampoline park. There is some forces on the coaster like the free fall and positives, but free fall is not intense and the positives are not sustained. So yeah, Superman is not intense, cry about it. Next up is another family coaster by Aerodynamics, this one being a little better. This is Ninja, the suspended coaster. Now this ride flies through the terrain, and the thing that really adds the intensity is the swinging. It can make the ride a lot better than it seems, and it really brings out the forces nicely. There's also a couple good moments of positive Gs and such, so yeah, it ranks above Superman. Now that we got rid of all our family coasters, this is where the intensity kicks up a notch. Next up is West Coast Racers. I feel like this is a solid, balanced coaster. It's not intense, but it's good. There's a plethora of airtime moments to offer and some sustained positives in the helixes. The launches are not forceful, but going on the layout a second time makes up for it. Staying in the same area of the park, Apocalypse is next on the list. I feel like Apocalypse is pretty similar to West Coast Racers in the sense that it has a plethora of forces. In this Woody, there are good moments of positive laterals and airtime. The main up it has on West Coast Racers is its wooden. It will feel like a more out of control ride experience, and it's not a perfectly glass smooth wooden coaster. Those are hard to cut by anyway, so there's some slight jackhammering to add up to the intensity. Next up is a good old classic, Twisted Colossus. This is your typical RMC, ejector airtime filled. These moments can feel intense as you are thrown straight out of your seat and all your weight is pinned on your hamstrings. It can be painful, but it's a good type of pain. The pacing is very good and the elements keep on hitting as you are delivered with ejector moment after ejector moment. The inversions add some nice breaks and have a decent amount of pacing as well. Next up is Goliath. Now we all know this to be utterly forceless. That's what it gets memed on for every single day. I mean, the first drop and the turnaround and the second drop and the drop off the mid-course and almost every single other moment of the ride contains absolutely nothing. However, the ending helix just hits different. You are driven into your seat with sustained positive Gs, and it's one of the most intense moments in the park. This one moment is amazing, and it's better than something like New Revolution has to offer. However, the rest of the coaster is lacking, so it ends up right here. Next up is Full Throttle. This coaster, like others, has another collection of diverse forces. Yeah, it's short, but it sure packs in a punch. There are some of the strongest LSMs out there. The launch is more forceful than Superman. Heck, it is even the best in the park. The loop not only looks amazing, but provides wicked hang time and some nice ejector coming back. Every element in this coaster seems to stand out and is pretty forceful. For these reasons, Full Throttle ends up in the middle of the pack. Another coaster that pieces together the front of the park is Tatsu. This B&M flying coaster sure does pack in a punch, a singular punch. The first drop and first few elements are pretty mellow, more like graceful flying than anything. Then all of a sudden you are slammed with one of the most intense moments on any coaster. The pretzel loop flips you on your back and pins you there with high sustained positive Gs. This is probably the most intense element in the park. The only thing that can come close to it is X2's first drop. The rest of the coaster is quite mellow, except maybe the turnaround above the fountain, so that's why Tatsu falls behind the next 6 coasters. Just missing out of the top 5 most intense coasters at Six Flags Magic Mountain is Wonder Woman Flight of Courage. This RMC Raptor is quite intense. The first drop has insane ejector along with many other strong pops. There are a few inversions thrown in, and yeah. The reason this ejector machine is better than the other ejector machine in the park, meaning Twisted Colossus, is because of the speed. This layout is taken with a serious amount of speed, and with that comes a decent amount of pacing and whip, giving it the number 6 spot. Next up comes Scream, Out Loud. What a terrible name. Anyway, Scream is a copy and paste mirror clone of Medusa that was put right in a parking lot. You're welcome for stating the obvious. This coaster gets so much hate, but nevertheless, it is quite intense. Each inversion is very forceful and the coaster is full of positive Gs. I would say this is one of B&M's better floorless coasters, but I haven't been on anything else, so we will leave that as is. Now this is where I say each coaster truly stands out in the intensity department. These top 4 coasters are some of the best in intensity, and you'll see why. First up is Viper. Now I really hate this coaster. Like, I actually despise it. Like, I'm scared to go on it because of how bad it is for me. Nevertheless, some of you psychopaths like it, and it's very intense. There's an insane amount of positive Gs, especially in those 3 vertical loops. The Cobra Roll has some positives, and those are really the standout moments. The rattle that this coaster has is what ruins it for me, but it may add on to the intensity for some. Viper is quite the experience, and a lot of enthusiasts enjoy it for the sheer intensity. Next up is Batman the Ride, a wonderful Batman clone. Now I can tolerate this ride because it's smooth. We all know what a Batman clone is. It's at all the good Six Flags park. The inversions are amazing and deliver the positives throughout. The whip is also there as you just get tossed around everywhere. The layout is short, but absolutely sweet. This coaster packs in a serious punch and is probably the reason Six Flags have cloned it everywhere. Next up in the number 2 spot is another coaster I really hate, Riddler's Revenge. This coaster is extremely uncomfortable for me to ride. I gave it one shot, didn't like it, gave it a second shot, thought it was okay, and here we are. The standing aspect is not appealing to me at all, especially because I stand around all day walking through the theme park. I also don't like how there's restraints because I don't know how to lock them properly. The first time I locked it too high, and you know how that goes. Next time I locked it too low and it was basically crouching the way through the whole ride. If you saw me, I would have looked hella GP.
You're dumb as a mule and twice as ugly.
Ignoring my thoughts, this coaster is very intense. All the elements are quite forceful, and that exemplifies tenfold when you are in the standing position. The layout is relentless too. It's way longer than Batman, which draws out the intensity much more. But something beats this, and beats it by an absolute long shot. I introduce you to none other than the wonderful X2, and I hate it.
Boy, if you don't get—
Imagine you are flung over a 215-foot vertical drop staring straight at the ground before flipping out at the last moment. X2 does just that. This is a one-of-a-kind experience. Well, 3 of a kind, but it doesn't matter. I don't think any other coasters come close to replicating this experience. It is absolutely insane. Not only that, we have a couple more very solid elements, all while you are flipping on the side of the track. If that's not intense, I do not know what to tell you. It's also quite shaky, so that could add to the intensity, but man, the flipping in the layout is so incredibly disorienting. It's like this machine can literally get away with beating you psychologically and physically. It's a lot to take in. I would like the coaster, but the roughness is just too much for me, and for the sheer insanity that X2 has to offer, it is the most intense coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and may even be the most intense coaster in the United States. That's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.